Hi there. This is the thing about Lucid. The market cap right now, look here, is about $6.8 billion, right? And the price around $2.20. You can see here. Now, if you look at the balance sheet, you look what they have, right? They have in cash 3.6 billion, plus some investments of about close to 1 billion, and in total, Lucid has 4.5 billion in cash. Pay attention to this number. 4.5 billion, which represents almost the entire market cap of $6.8 billion. So most of the value of Lucid stock lies in their total cash, $4.5 billion. Now, you also have to dig deeper. You also have some debt, long-term debt about 2 billion, and if you do the math, net cash position is about $2.5 billion. This is the real value if this company is liquidated. Now, as they took some debt, they might have low interest. They have enough cash to fund their operation. And why do they need so much cash on their balance sheet? Well, if you look at the revenue from 2022 to 2024, and more recently, first quarter 2025, you can see here, they made 0.6 billion in revenue 2022, barely 1 billion. Then a small decline to 0.5 billion, an increase to 0.8 billion, and then more recently 0.2 billion. But this is for the first quarter. They still have 3 other quarters. Now, pay attention to this. The most important metric is their earnings. On 0.6 billion, they don't earn anything. They have a loss for 2022, a loss of $1.3 billion. So they make $600 million, but they had to spend over 1.3 billion to earn this revenue. Now, 2023, you see again, their losses have increased to 2.8 billion. You don't see any increase in the revenue from 2022 to 2023, just a small decline, flat, let's say flat. But their losses have doubled from 1.3 billion to 2.8 billion. Then here, 2024, you see a small increase in the revenue to 0.8 billion, and their losses flat, minus 2.7 billion. But this is still a lot. This is still a lot. And as you can see, as they have so many losses, over 2 billion for the last 2 years, that's why they need a lot of cash. This cash, 4.5 billion, to fund their operations, investments. And then more recently, Q1, you see another loss. 0.2 billion in revenue and 0.3 billion in losses, net losses. Now, what's the catch with Lucid? Because you have to be very, very careful here. Not only they burn a lot of money, and they need a lot of money to fund those losses, so be aware that this cash will go to their expenses, investments. Because if they don't make any profits, they have to fund their operations, their investments, capital expenditures, and they'll use this cash position. That's why if you invest in this company based only on their cash position, be aware that this cash will decrease over time. Because if you have in 1 year 2 billion in losses, how do you cover this money, these expenses? Well, you use the total cash, right? Take money from the total cash and fund your expenses. So for the next 2 years, they can fund this business, continue to fund this business. Now, you also have to be aware that they have other means to fund the business, not only from the total cash, but also from the public market, from investors like us, common investors. You see here the number of shares over the last 3 years and more recently Q1 2025. This number has increased from 1.4 billion shares outstanding to 3 billion. So in just over 3 years, they double the number of shares. When you see something like this, two things happen. First, Lucid raises more money from investors, free money, because they don't have to pay it back and no interest, it's free money. And then, guess what happens with past shareholders? People who bought in 2022, especially here, 2022, when the number of shares was about 1.6 billion, they lost half in their value because the number of shares had increased by two times. So investors who bought in 2022 are burned. Now, if you buy right now and they don't increase the number of shares, and of course the earnings improve, they become positive, then you get value. If not, if you have the same story, a double in the number of shares, and to see more losses in the futures, then that will be bad also for you. So be aware of this. Then, another important metric is the number of deliveries. Because at the end, what matters is what Lucid sells. You see the number of deliveries here, per year and for the last quarter. 2022, 4.3 thousand number of deliveries. 2023, 6K. 2024, 10.2K. Q1 2025, 3.1K. So you can see here a nice increase. Here almost a double. And here, if you compare it year over year, also a nice increase of about 50% plus. Now, Lucid, in order for Lucid to become profitable, if they become profitable, the market cap goes up and so the stock price. So in order for Lucid to become profitable, they have to increase the number of deliveries. Not by 50%, but from 10K to over 100, maybe 1 million if they can reach that number. Anyway, you have to see a 10x in the number of deliveries, and maybe they're able to become profitable, to make a profit. Can they do that? Well, if you give them enough time, they can do it. They can invest in marketing, improve their operations, their cars, and they might do it. But you also have to ask yourself if they have enough funds to fund those operations, their costs and investments, and of course, marketing expenses. Because if it takes 10 years, right, to 10x the number of deliveries, they might run out of cash. Because this cash will be available for the next 2 years. Right? Of course, they might issue more shares, but how much? Because if the cash goes down, market cap goes down. Especially if the earnings don't improve. So they can take, in the future, they can no longer take advantage of the free money from the market. So Lucid may run out of time. If they have enough time, they can increase the number of deliveries and become profitable. But if they are limited, this company may not become profitable. And if that happens, you get burned as a shareholder. Because you might think that this company has a lot of potential, but you have to be very, very careful. And here is the outlook for 2025. They expect the annual production, to be about 20,000. Now, if the number of deliveries is around this range, 20k, to see for 2025, 20,000 deliveries, yes, you have a double, 100%. But again, I don't think that on 10k they can become profitable. For 2025, they'll continue to report losses. And 2026, I think the same thing will happen. They will continue to report losses. I don't see any profits in the next 2 years because their size is quite small. And to achieve a profit, especially in this auto industry, you need a large scale, economy of scale. And it's quite hard to achieve that, especially with their numbers. What they can do, in my view, is to raise prices. So that they can cover their expenses. But again, to raise prices, you need a great car, luxury, they already are there, and of course performance. You don't want to buy a watch that doesn't work, right? You need performance. And I don't think if they can achieve this performance in the short term for them to become profitable. I mean, in the next 3 to 5 years. This is what I mean in the short term. Over the next 5 years, they might achieve some performance. For the moment, what I see is only their luxury, their design, their advantage, a plus for them. But performance, here I don't see it compared to Tesla. Because Tesla is the gold standard. And to increase prices again, not only luxury, but also performance we need. And here is a minus. They have a minus. Of course, if they find some buyers, those high prices, they might achieve profitability in the next years. But for the moment, I don't see any profits from Lucid, especially in the next 2 years. And this is what they have to do. Increase prices or increase the scale. As I said, maybe 10x, 100k, they may be able to make a profit. But if they can't do it, I don't see any future for Lucid for the moment. Now, if you want to find out the exact price I pay for Lucid, you can join my membership. Go to my profile, press join, and choose the level Spartan. There you can find my evaluation about Lucid and how to take advantage of this stock if it becomes undervalued or overvalued. So that's it for this video. And if you have other questions, please let me know in the comments.